His evolution as a revenge-seeking villain, criminal mastermind, and even occasional anti-hero has made him a unique and multi-layered villain. No matter what his scheme happens to be, Baron Zemo has always believed in one thing, that he was destined to rule the world. Helmut Zemo's father, Heinrich, was a ruthless but brilliant Nazi scientist who built a death ray to help conquer the world, only to be thwarted by the Howling Commandos. This blow to his reputation in Germany led to him disguising himself with the now famous purple cowl. Heinrich went insane when Captain America beat him again, and his cowl was permanently stuck to him thanks to his superglue invention Adhesive X. Zemo gained revenge when he booby-trapped a rocket whose detonation put Cap in suspended animation. By the time of Avengers number 6, Heinrich created the Masters of Evil as a way of trying to kill Cap and his friends in the Avengers once and for all. Zemo died when his death ray caused a rock slide that buried him while fighting Cap in Avengers number 15. Years later, a villain in a bright orange and red costume who called himself the Phoenix, not to be confused with X-Men's Phoenix, menaced Cap and his partner the Falcon. In Captain America number 168, the Phoenix revealed himself to be Heinrich Zemo's son, Helmut, having reverse-engineered how to make Adhesive X and the Death Ray. At that time, Helmut Zemo was no match for Cap one-on-one, and Cap himself was reluctant to fight him, seeing Helmut as another victim of the war. At one point, Helmut, who obviously survived his fall into a vat of Adhesive X, married a woman named Heike, who initially claimed to be the reincarnation of Heinrich Zemo by way of the biofanatic Arnim Zola. In the pages of Captain America, Heike was married to Helmut Zemo with 25 children they had stolen from abusive family situations that they referred to as the Kinder. The Zemos gave them love and care while also making sure that they were raised to hate Captain America. Heike was working with the evil scientist, Superia, whose agenda was creating a world of superpowered women and wiping out men. Helmut overheard her scheming and had to be talked out of killing her before he fell into yet another vat of Adhesive X, with Heike jumping in after him. Cap wasn't going to fall for the same trick twice and tracked them down, easily capturing them both. This wasn't exactly Helmut's finest hour, but it was his most vulnerable, and he later claimed that his wife died in prison. After his earlier schemes didn't work, Helmut started hiding in plain sight in order to get what he wanted. This was most famously revealed in the pages of Thunderbolts, which featured members of the Masters of Evil disguised as superheroes in the wake of the Avengers' disappearance and dissolution.
And Avengers, the Masters of Evil betrayed you! Made a mockery of you!
Zemo's disguise as a descendant of the Golden Age superhero Citizen V was especially delicious since his father had killed the original. His plan was to make the public and the authorities trust his team, then get access to S.H.I.E.L.D. and Avengers access codes in order to hook up a mind control device to a satellite. His plan almost worked, but he hadn't accounted for some of the Thunderbolts actually wanting to become heroes, and they led the resistance against him after just a few issues. After Zemo was seemingly killed by Scourge, his consciousness was transferred into the body of John Watkins III, who had taken up the mantle of Citizen V in the pages of Thunderbolts number 45. He led the V Battalion under the nose of every other superhero, including the Avengers. A few issues later, he was offered a chance to lead a team of government-issued superheroes called the Redeemers, who were based on the original Thunderbolts. The point where Helmut Zemo really became a master villain was Avengers number 273, when he launched his plan to monitor the Avengers, probing for weaknesses and then invading Avengers Mansion. In observing the team, he saw that Hercules chafed against the Wasp's leadership, that the Black Knight was infatuated with the Wasp, and devised a scheme to neutralize Monica Rambeau, who was Captain Marvel at the time. When he learned that Namor left the team, he struck. He had his best lackey, the Fixer, create a device that allowed him to control the Dark Force-wielding catatonic named Blackout. That control disposed of Captain Marvel and kept the other Masters of Evil in line, including the devious Moonstone. He brought in the entire Wrecking Crew, Mr. Hyde and Goliath, to act as his muscle. They beat Hercules nearly to death and did the same to poor Jarvis, all to torture Captain America. Ultimately, he failed not because he didn't have enough power, but because he didn't believe his own analysis. He said the Avengers always won because they were unified, but he treated every one of the Masters as expendable cannon fodder. The Avengers, on the other hand, fought for each other because of the friendships they had forged together. That lack of unity and the way he used others was frequently his undoing. Helmut Zemo was obsessed with his father and his legacy for many years. When Captain America reappeared, this twisted his grief for his abusive father's death into something truly warped. Like his father, he wasted his own skill and intelligence on futile revenge schemes and recreations of destructive weapons. The reality is that his endless crusade for vengeance was his way of trying to make his father proud. Helmut even went so far as to try to resurrect his father, using fragments from the magical Bloodstone in the pages of Captain America number 357. All that did was put the essence of an evil force inside Heinrich's body, and he rewarded Helmut by trying to kill him. Helmut's obsession with legacy continued when he went back into the past and met all of his ancestors, with their DNA being a focal point that allowed him to go into his family's past as he tried to return to his own time. This story, covered in the miniseries Zemo Born Better, included a meeting with his dad as he was demonstrating his first death ray to Hitler. By this time, Helmut was sick of how his father had warped him, and they got into a fight. Helmut left him the famous purple cow, as he felt himself pulled forward to the future, understanding how limited his father's worldview actually was. Zemo's time as leader of the Thunderbolts changed him, even if he didn't want to admit it. It took a while for him to change, but when he and the Thunderbolts were shunted off to counter Earth in Thunderbolts number 62, he learned to accept this adulation, even if his goals of world domination didn't change. When the Thunderbolts went to counter Earth, Zemo was still sharing his consciousness with the Fixer. When Zemo realized that the Counter-Earth version of his father was trying to take over the world, he directed the Fixer to download his consciousness into that world's version of himself, who went by the name Iron Cross. After he killed this other version of his father, once again, daddy issues, he joined with the Thunderbolts, who wanted to save the world. Zemo realized that as far as he was concerned, if saving the world meant people giving him what he wanted, he was all for it. Zemo was hailed as a hero for helping the survivors of the world to the point where he started to become uncomfortable with this adulation. When a threat to counter Earth came along, he was ready to destroy Earth in order to save it, but the Thunderbolts found a way to save both planets. In Thunderbolts number 75, Zemo went back to Earth, having convinced even Hawkeye he was a hero. For a long time, Helmut saw Captain America as the sole reason his life was so lonely and meaningless, and as the reason for his father's death. Of course, it didn't happen that way, but Helmut refused to listen. Instead, Zemo made things personal. In the pages of Captain America, he kidnapped Cap's childhood friend Arnie Roth, and also kidnapped a pacifist friend named Dave Cox and turned him into a killer. When he conquered Avengers Mansion, Zemo gleefully tore up photos of Bucky and Cap's mom and had Mr. Hyde destroy Cap's first shield. Then in Avengers number 275, he had Hyde beat Jarvis to a pulp as Cap watched, helpless.
Captain America, it's been a long time.
Later, when Zemo had the Kinder, he remarked on how much time he had wasted hating Cap and how much happier he was with his family. Of course, he made sure his children were raised to hate his rivals, so that hatred was still there. After Zemo became a hero on Counter-Earth and returned to Earth, he jumped in front of a blast meant for Cap and saved him in the pages of Avengers/Thunderbolts number 6, leaving him scarred once again. Things got extra weird later when Captain America was changed by the Cosmic Cube named Kobik into a version of himself who had always served Hydra. This version of Cap believed that Helmut had been his lifelong friend, and he even managed to talk Helmut into believing it. Zemo has always liked having minions and teams to do his dirty work, but he values absolute servitude above all else.
You may call me Master. Now kneel before me.
In Avengers number 277, he made sure to have the Fixer give him absolute control over Blackout in order to make him his personal bodyguard. In Thunderbolts number 11, he used the device called the Biomodem to take over the minds of the Avengers and was nearly able to take over the entire world with it. One of the main reasons he kept Moonstone around was because of her psychological acumen, which he could use to manipulate his masters of evil. On a personal level, he took over the bodies of John Watkins III and Helmut Zemo of Counter-Earth, escaping death both times as he used another person's body. Despite his frequent reliance on mind control, Zemo's natural charisma has convinced a lot of people to work with him. As Thunderbolts Annual number 1 proved, for example, he knew just how to appeal to each member in order to get them to join. The Fixer was bored and needed problems to solve, and Zemo gave him that. Songbird was on the run and needed someone to offer her shelter, so Zemo provided. Mach 1 was tired of being a loser, and Zemo gave him a chance to win. Goliath needed to be someone's soldier, and you guessed it, Zemo made that happen. Whether Zemo is presenting himself as a hero or a villain, his goal of domination has never wavered. He wanted to rule the world and thought as a Zemo, he was the only one fit to do it. Unlike many villains, he's come astoundingly close to winning several times. He almost took over the mind of everyone in the world with the biomodem, and only his own overconfidence proved to be his undoing. Even when he seemed to be more heroic, he had the Thunderbolts help assemble the Liberator, a device designed to drain the power of superpowered individuals in the Avengers/Thunderbolts miniseries. It theoretically would have been used against terrorist threats and supervillains, but it left open two major questions. First, what would be done with the energy it absorbed? Second, who would decide when and how to use it? A test run had adverse effects on several heroes, and even a well-intentioned Zemo was willing to allow for a lot of collateral damage. When Zemo later decided to take over Hydra in the pages of all-new Captain America, he recruited a kid named Lucas whose blood could sterilize human beings. His scheme this time around was to save the world's future by sterilizing most of the human race, creating a, quote, purer world. He was going to detonate a bomb in the atmosphere that would affect all of humanity, and had a backup plan involving fleas carrying the toxin. He was eventually stopped by Captain America Sam Wilson and his trusty bird Red Wing. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite Marvel characters are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.